Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We begin this morning with that catastrophic earthquake in Morocco, the deadliest to hit the North African country in more than 6 decades.
We just got the latest numbers this morning. More than 2,400 people have now died in the 6.8 magnitude quake. It struck Friday night, destroying villages in the mostly rural high Atlas Mountains. Buildings collapsed in the old city of Marrakesh, forcing people to sleep in the streets. Rescue teams are still working to find survivors from beneath mountains of rubble. So far, the Moroccan government has only accepted offers of assistance from Spain, Britain, Qatar, and the UAE. They've all deployed search teams to the country. Amid the devastation, harrowing stories are starting to emerge. This home was destroyed in the quake as a family was having dinner. The father says he asked his son to get an item from the kitchen. When the house began to shake and collapse, the parents and their 2 other children made it out alive, but the boy did not. His body was recovered from the rubble the next day. NBC News foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez has the latest.
Hey there, we're in the remote mountain village of Moulay Ibrahim. We're about 30 miles east of the epicenter of that 6.8 magnitude earthquake. And it is remote communities like this that have borne the brunt of the devastation. I want to show you around just a little bit. This tower is all that remains of what was once a shrine in this village. We're standing in the marketplace. People's shops were here. There were homes here. And in the rubble, in the debris, are fragments of people's lives, including their mail and their bills. Now, this community was home to 3,000 people. Locals tell us 40 of them were killed in the quake. So that's more than 1% of the population of this village. We met a man who lost not only his wife, his 3 daughters, and his baby son. He told us he does not know what he has to live for anymore. And his family are part of that national death toll that over the weekend has climbed above 2,100 and is expected to go higher. Now, we are on the 3rd day since Friday's earthquake, and rescue experts will tell you the first 72 hours are absolutely critical. We have been seeing rescue teams, both professionals, but also local volunteers, people who just hand by patient hand are sifting through the rubble, trying to save the lives of their neighbors. There was a rescue in this area over the weekend, and that is giving people hope that they may still find survivors, but it is a desperate race against time at this point. What they need most in these remote communities is heavy equipment, but that is difficult. The roads here are winding, they are narrow. In some cases, they are blocked by boulders, but the rescue effort continues. Back to you.
All right, Raf, thank you so much.
Well, today, President Biden will wrap up his visit to Vietnam. The trip is part of an effort to deepen ties with the country as part of efforts to reduce America's reliance on China. We're going to get into this. We're joined by NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell. She's on the ground in Vietnam. Hey, Kelly, good morning. So this was just a quick weekend trip, but it's one the White House does see as very important. During the visit, the U.S. was lifted to Hanoi's highest diplomatic status, alongside, though, China and Russia. What can you tell us about the visit, what that means, what this ultimately is for the administration?
It is a significant trip, and regardless of the time of the week and how much time the president had on the ground, this was a significant relationship-building opportunity for the U.S. and Vietnam. Vietnam elevating the United States to its highest level of diplomatic relationship, and those sort of grades on the scale are quite important in moving the 2 nations forward. It is a hedge against China, certainly, but it is also about the economic relationships between the United States and Vietnam, where there's a lot of investment that's taking place, the president meeting with business leaders, and the opportunities, especially in the tech field, to try to expand this kind of partnership. The president was certainly noting how decades have changed the relationship between the United States and Vietnam, once at war and now partners and friends at a new level. Here's what the president said earlier.
This trip has been a historic moment. Today, we can trace 50-year arc of progress in the relationship between our nations, from conflict to normalization. This is a new elevated status that will be a force for prosperity and security in one of the most consequential regions in the world.
And And of course, Vietnam uses China as an important trading partner, so their relationship can be complicated as well. And for the U.S., it's really about trying to build strength in this part of the world as an offset to China, but also for these individual relationships on their own merits, and on the potential for economic growth. Savannah?
Yeah, Kelly, I think that's such a good way to put it. It is kind of about that offset, but also about the relationships. That being said, the president has insisted that this visit there was not about trying to contain China, or at least that wasn't the only focus. What has the reaction, though, been from Beijing?
Well, one of the things that's been so important to watch about this is because China's president did not go to the G20, which is where the president began with his multi-day, multi-continent trip. And that absence allowed for a lot of conversation about China. The president was asked a number of questions about this. It is a complex relationship, one where there are economic ties, but also real concerns about the military muscle China is showing and some of the unpredictable characteristics of the relationship, not only with the United States, but with other significant partners around the world. The president was careful, wanting very much to have follow-up conversations with Xi Jinping, who he has not spoken to in nearly a year. And the president was also trying to be careful to say what he is not trying to do with respect to China. Here's his response on that.
I am sincere about getting the relationship right. And one of the things that is going on now is China's beginning to change some of the rules of the game in terms of trade and other issues. But as I said, we're not looking to hurt China, sincerely. We're all better off if China does well.
And that gives you a sense of how the president is trying to find that balance, to not say anything that would be overtly provocative to China, to try to explain some of the nuances of this relationship, and at the same time build alliances that give strength for the U.S. when it comes to the juxtaposition of these two superpowers, the United States and China. Also, while the president was here in Hanoi, he made a personal stop to a memorial site that honors the late Senator John McCain, who was shot down as a Navy pilot generations ago, spent 5.5 years in a prison here as a prisoner of war. He was accompanied by John Kerry, who, of course, is a climate envoy, but was a part of that friendship when all of them were in the Senate. Savannah?
Absolutely. Kelly, before I let you go, I do want to switch gears off the president to something in the region. So North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is expected to travel to Russia to discuss supplying Russia with weapons for its ongoing war in Ukraine. Put in context how much of a concern that is. What can you tell us about that visit?
Well, it is a concern for the United States because, of course, Russia has limited places it can go to try to look for additional support. And North Korea has been such an unstable actor in all of these situations. And so the president was asked a question about this. He did not directly respond to it. There are concerns about what it could mean, but certainly the United States feels that it shows how further isolated Russia is by the fact that all of the kind of economic sanctions that have been used have put pressure on Russia. During the G20 in India, there was a joint agreement from the nations gathered there. Of course, Russia is a part of the G20, so is China. And it was not perhaps as strong as some would have liked, but it was a condemnation in a sense of the reach of Russia trying to obtain power and physical territory from Ukraine. Many felt it could have gone further, but it was a statement nonetheless. Savannah?
All right. Kelly O'Donnell, thank you so much. Safe travels.
There are new developments this morning in the search for that escaped prisoner in Pennsylvania. The convicted killer was spotted over the weekend, but officials say it looks like he slipped past them again. Now they are once again expanding their search. NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra joins us from Pennsylvania with the latest. Marissa, good morning. A lot of developments this weekend. First, just get us up to speed on this latest sighting and where authorities think he could be now.
Yeah, I'll walk you through all the developments we got yesterday, Joe, because there were a lot. So just to kind of set the scene here, I'm outside of the command post, and it was just a couple of miles away from where we are. Longwood Gardens, that was where they had narrowed their search. On Saturday, they narrowed it down to 4 miles. It was half of what it was on Friday. So for all intents and purposes, everyone thought that they were getting closer, narrowing in. And then we heard overnight leading into Sunday that there had been a sighting, that there had been a van that was stolen from a local dairy farm. We found later that that van had been found abandoned behind a barn. This was, about 40 minutes away from where we are right now, so clearly had made his escape, but in between then had been seen on Ring doorbell camera twice. You're seeing that van being towed away right now, and in just a moment I'm going to ask that we pull up those pictures that we got. Cavalcante, the most recent pictures, because what you'll notice too is that he's wearing new clothes. He has a totally new appearance, and in these pictures this is him asking for help from old associates. We know that he's been asking for help from people that he has known because this is him documented doing so, and so those were two instances. They both called the police, and then afterwards he was spotted about 40 minutes north of where we are right now. And at this moment in time, Joe, the thing to remember is that they don't actually know where he is. So this really is, they said, a nationwide manhunt. I mean, it has been a nationwide effort for some time. The U.S. Marshals are involved, and they have been since the start. But they said that as of right now, they do believe that he is still in Pennsylvania. But if he is spotted across state lines, then there would be a transition to the state police of that state, and the U.S. Marshals would be even more involved than they are right now, Joe.
So, Marissa, I mean, authorities are facing some tough questions now that it appears he's slipped by them. How are they responding to those tough questions?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that NBC was in the room for, and NBC did press them on. And in short, because you're going to hear it from them for yourself in just a second, but in short, they really stressed that no perimeter is 100% secure. Take a listen.
There are a number of challenges in any investigation. No perimeter is 100% secure, ever. We did a very good job, and I will tell you, I applaud the men and women who were out there standing in some very difficult conditions and trying to secure that perimeter. I'm not going to make an excuse to you. I wish it had not happened.
Some of those conditions, by the way, for those who need a refresher, Longwood Gardens, these are botanical gardens. They are densely wooded. There's also, we learned, there's construction sites. They have drainage pipes. There are, tunnels that are throughout the gardens in the area. So they don't know exactly how Cavalcante got out of the perimeter, but they just know that eventually he did make his way to a home. Keys were left inside of a van, and that was a huge part in him being able to make his escape once again. Joe?
All right, Marissa Parra with the latest from Pennsylvania. Thank you so much.
Well, Hurricane Lee is now a slow-moving Category 3 storm. Let's get the latest on that with a check at your Morning News Now weather.
Yeah, meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us with the latest on the storm. Michelle, good morning.
Hi there, guys. Yeah, painfully slow. We have been talking about it for a week straight. We're going to continue to talk about it until next weekend because we are looking at the forward motion really slowing down. So here's the latest on Lee. It's a big storm in size. It's also a major storm in Category 3. We're looking at winds at 120 miles per hour. Remember, on Friday it was a Category 5. Then it weakened to a 3 on Saturday, a 2 on Sunday, and then increased that speed or that intensity last night into today. And then we're going to see it intensify even further. So we're moving northwest at 7 miles per hour. On Saturday, it was moving about 12 miles per hour. It's starting to slow, and we're going to see it moving painfully slow over the next several days. Look at this track, kind of telling the story here. So as we go throughout the overnight hours of tonight into tomorrow, Category 4 storm, then a Category 3 storm once again, as it sort of encounters some wind shear, then down to a Category 2 storm by Thursday. And still Friday, we're talking about a Category 2 storm just west of Bermuda. So the takeaway here is it's north of the Lesser Antilles. It's impacting portions of the Lesser Antilles, Hispaniola, the Bahamas, Bermuda, and also Puerto Rico with some rough surf, some life-threatening rip currents. And that's going to be the story as we go throughout time here along the east coast of the U.S. too. So as we go throughout time here, even this week, even starting today into the next 7 days, we're looking at high surf, rip current, but we're looking at a Category 1 storm. Now, as we look at the models, this is from the National Hurricane Center, we have really good agreement. We still are a while away. We still have the steering motions that are not really intact yet at area of high pressure, the Bermuda high, also a storm system that's going to come off the coast here. So we have to get those two players in place, but still seeing these models kind of agree that we see that landfall somewhere in the Maritimes of Canada, anywhere from New England into the Maritimes of Canada. But it looks like good consensus now is into Canada. Now, as we look at the rest of the Atlantic, we're talking about Hurricane Lee. We'll be talking about that for several days to come. Also, Tropical Storm Margot. That is destined to become a hurricane, although it's going to stay a fish storm, so that's good news. And then watching two other areas of disturbances that could develop further. As far as the severe weather threat, we're looking at some storms today in portions of eastern New Mexico and western western Texas, so Lubbock, Roswell, Midland. You could see some really strong storms with winds gusting over 65 miles per hour. Some hail, an isolated tornado or two. It's all due to a long cold front that's stretching from the Great Lakes all the way to portions of the southern plains. So we do have that low severe risk, but still not zero for some flash flooding, some really strong winds. And this cold front is going to make its way into portions of the east. I know, guys, it was a really wet weekend in the east. We're going to see some isolated storms in the northeast today, and then another cold front is going to bring some storms once again tomorrow into Wednesday.
Yeah, lots of rain this weekend.
I know.
All right.
I kind of loved it.
I know. It's like, okay, I guess we're headed to fall. Thanks, Michelle.
All right. Happening now. It was quiet for nearly 2 months, but one of the most active volcanoes in the world started erupting again in Hawaii on Sunday. Take a look. You can see the glowing lava from Kilauea on Hawaii's Big Island. The lava is a safe distance from people and homes. Kilauea is Hawaii's second largest volcano and last erupted for several weeks in June. Turning to tennis now, Novak Djokovic won his 24th Grand Slam title. He already has sort of the Open era title, but this now ties him with Margaret Court's record.
Yeah, the Serbian superstar beat Russia's Danilo Medvedev in straight sets in yesterday's U.S. Open final. It is the 36-year-old's first tournament on U.S. soil in 2 years. He addressed the historic moment after the match.
I really did my best in the last 48 hours not to allow the importance of the moment and what's on the line get to my head, because 2 years ago that's what happened, and I underperformed and I wasn't able to be at my best and I was outplayed. So I learned my lesson, and my team, my family knew that the last 24 hours don't touch me, don't speak to me about, you know, the history or what's on the line.
Don't touch me, don't speak to me. Joining us now is Lucas Weiss. He's a staff editor at The Athletic and always joins us on this. Hey, Lucas, great to have you with us. So, I mean, Djokovic, he wins another Grand Slam title. Just what do you make of the win? Was that what you were expecting? And do you think that this means that we will see him surpass that record at the next major in Australia?
Well, thanks for having me on, Savannah and Joe. A historic moment for Novak Djokovic on Sunday, winning his 24th Slam title, his 4th U.S. Open, beating Danilo Medvedev. And yes, it certainly was expected just because of how well Djokovic was playing at the U.S. Open. He'd only dropped 2 sets coming into the final, and just showcasing his relentless defense and incredible shot making. So this is someone who's still motivated at 36 years old. He is the oldest single Slam champion now. And in 125 days, when the Australian Open takes place, Djokovic will be the favorite as he tries to win Slam number 25.
All right, so from 24 Grand Slams to first Grand Slam, we are so excited about Coco Gauff. The 19-year-old beat Belarus's Aryna Sabalenka, who's now the world #1, but she beat her 2 sets to 1. How impressed were you with that comeback win, losing the first set, then coming back in the next 2?
Super impressed with Coco Gauff. Look, that was an incredible, gutsy performance from the American team to come back from a set down to beat someone in Sabalenka who had won the Australian Open earlier this year. And what I was impressed with Gauff was her defense. She was just running around the court. Her incredible movement just broke Sabalenka's spirit over the course of the match. This is a breakthrough win for Coco Gauff, for American tennis, for women's tennis overall. And I think for her now, she's going to use this as a springboard to win even more big tournaments for many years to come.
Oh, absolutely. I think 3 times just in the course over the U.S. Open she did that, where she came back from being a set, losing that first set, which is pretty incredible. And you're right, she's just so fast. I think in addition to her win and all that, another moment that kind of went viral was her speaking after, when she thanked people who she said, you know, hadn't believed in her and that she felt was sort of critical of her. Have the expectations now gone up a notch? What do you think this means after this win? Are we going to see the start of something special here with Coco?
Yeah, the expectations have gone up, but look, they were already sky high for Coco when she was a 15-year-old, when she burst on the scene at Wimbledon. But it's been a steady progression for Gauff. She didn't immediately win a Slam at 15 or 16 years old. She had to deal with some tough losses, including at the 2022 French Open. Coco learned from that. She got better, and now she's at a point in her career where she can just use this to continue to get better, to improve, and become one of the top players on the WTA Tour.
Oh, so cool. Lucas Weiss from The Athletic, thank you so much. Thanks for talking through the U.S. Open throughout the last couple of weeks with us.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.